Greetings and welcome to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is J. Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. As Sir Daniel.
Yo, I've been itching to have this conversation. We've been itching to have this conversation for a minute.
Yes. And it is time that we dive into a unique part of Black music culture.
Very unique, very niche.
Yes.
Very niche, because these are very niche songs.
Yes.
And when you hear them, you almost forget about them, but then when you hear them, they have such a nice groove that you're like, oh yeah, I remember this jam, and you just start bopping along to it.
But we need to talk about these songs because once again, they are unique and interesting stories. And it's just, and they have taken Black culture by storm.
Yes.
In their day. And so we're going to talk about Another Man by Barbara Mason. And we have a guest that we have been wanting to appear on Q Points for a long time to just rap with us from a Black woman's perspective about these songs. So we're going to bring our guest in, but before we do that, we got to run down the bio. Starr Rocque is with us. Starr is a journalist and author. Her work has been featured by Fast Company, Vibe Magazine, People Magazine, VH1, Essence Magazine, American Urban Radio Networks, AURN, and more. Her debut novel, Bloggers Can't Be Trusted, is available on Amazon. Q Points family. Without further ado, Starr Rocque is in the building. What's up, Starr?
What's up, Starr? Look, I was waiting to say that for the longest time. What's up, Starr?
Yes,
We'd
I
like
love
to get
it.
to know how you are.
Know who you are.
Right.
Of course.
It's been a minute since we saw you our IRL because we all got together. We got to see each other in person at the Banjo Boombox event this past August. Well, August of 2024. And so we got to hang out, we got to chill and chop it up a little bit. And when we were trying to figure out, we need a Black woman. We need a Black woman who is versed in music, who can speak to these cultural phenomenons, because while they are niche songs, they truly hit a nerve. They struck a nerve in the community, specifically the Black community. So first and foremost, before we go any further, we want to check in with you. How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, given the circumstances. You know, there's only so much you control in your personal life, but you still got to live in this world, right? This group project. So I'm okay.
I totally get it. I love that you call life a group project, because there's always somebody that's doing the most and there's always somebody that's kind of slacking. I love that. I'm going to have to use that. So we are talking about today, Stars. You heard in the intro, we're talking about Another Man by Barbara Mason.
And Sir Daniel, it's so funny because you said in the beginning, sometimes you'll hear a song and it's just a bop and you don't really think about the lyrics. Now, let me say, I'm an 80's baby, born in the early 80s. So, you know, the song came out I think 84. So I was a little kid at the family barbecue. Like, this was a song that was in rotation because it was a bop.
Yeah.
And I can't recall anyone ever I can't recall anyone around me making a big deal about it. People were just going along singing the lyrics. As a kid, my interpretation of the song was that she meant that if your man cheated on you, then you cheat back. the bisexuality of it just went right over my head. And then when you guys reached out about this, I was like, wait a minute, another man? Hold on. Listen to it the whole time.
Yes.
So I gotta be
from beginning to end.
So I gotta be transparent. Like, I remember hearing Another Man in passing, but it didn't really stick. But I became refamiliar with it when Notorious B.I.G sampled it on his on the was not Life After, was it Life After? It was Life After.
It was the Life After Death.
It was Life After Death. Yep.
And it was a duet with him and Lil' Kim called Another.
Yep.
And you know, and of course the groove is just so funky. And then when you go back and you listen, it was like, oh, oh, she said he did what? I hope he wasn't wearing my what? I caught him. I caught them holding hands, and so this whole subject matter starts to unfurl when you listen to the original song, "Another Man," about her describing this man that she was once in love with, and then picking up on quote unquote feminine mannerisms,
right,
and then catching him on Market Street, which I guess the implication is
she's
Market
from
Street.
Philly. Market Street. She's so Barbara Mason is from Philly. So of course this song was written by Butch Ingram, and I think Butch is from like Jersey. That's a fun fact about both of these songs. Both of these songs were written by men. We'll put that to the side. That was my fun fact. So let's keep that in there when we talk about these songs. But I didn't think about that. Market Street is just like a main thoroughfare in Philadelphia. So no, it's literally like Broad Street, Market Street are like the two streets downtown. Now that said, in 84, when this song came out, I don't know what Market Street was given. Like, so, cities evolve.
Right.
But to that point, both of your points, like I remembered Another Man as just like an 80s bop, right?
Yes.
Because the beat was so ubiquitous with the era. And also the bass line, the synth bass line in Another Man, it's just kind of one of those bass lines that you hear like remnants of like over time, before and after this song. So I didn't really realize the subject matter until the 90s. You know what I mean? Is when I first was like, oh, that's what Another Man is about. And yes, later on, I picked up, after I got my political hat on and I started doing my own thing, I'm like, and then I picked up on like the language that was being used. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. That's what, and so I didn't know how to take it then, because with this new lens that I was looking through, I was like, oh, is this song like harmful? But then I'm like, it's storytelling. So I'm curious, like y'all thoughts on Another Man as like a song, like, however you want to take that. What are your thoughts?
It's a good song.
Yeah.
Like it's drama. Black people love a good drama. It's kind of like the musical version of like some kind of, I don't know, like a Tyler Perry movie, for lack of a better way to phrase it. And I know we could go into how Tyler Perry uses bisexuality and homosexuality in ways that are actually very stereotypical and harmful.
Yes.
But I digress with that. For song purposes, it's a good song. Like it's a good dramatic song. And it's funny because she stole the man from somebody else.
Right.
So
right.
That.
It's a dramaful event. And I think that's part of why some of the nuances of this, of whoever this other man is, kind of might go over people's heads. It's definitely one of those, like, you got to listen to it again and again and like for real. Because like I said, I grew up hearing it at parties and barbecues and thought nothing of it. So that's also a marker of a good song, right? Like you almost get so lost in the rhythm, you're not even really listening to the lyrics. But then when you listen to the lyrics, you get what we're doing today, right? We have conversations like this today. But yeah, it's kind of like a precursor to like I hate bringing up this man's name, but like a Trapped in the Closet, right? Like that whole like dramatic series of events. Like we love a good dramatic song, and if it's a bop, that's even better.
Yes.
True. I was thinking about Robert also in that whole dramatic theme of the telling a story, and a lot of our greatest songs in the Black American songbook are stories. They have a narrative, and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and or it goes on to a part two. So yes, it's like, okay, so we just included that. It's funky, which makes it even harder to put down. I just, to your point, Starr, it made me think about how a lot of other artists use the theme of cheating and bisexuality, specifically bisexuality, became like a marketing ploy. I don't know if you remember, in the mid 2000s, there was an author by the name of J.L. King who rose to prominence when he dropped his book called On the DL.
Yeah.
And he was on
I
the
remember
Oprah
that.
Winfrey show, and it was
Yes.
like a 2-part series, and it was so dramatic. And right after that, Terry McMillan, famous author, had
that's right.
come to the forefront because her then husband came out to her, and then they appeared on Oprah, and then there was this conversation about black men, specifically black men, living these double lives and how harmful they are to black women. So it's like the reason why we wanted to discuss these songs is that the songs have a alter effect, another effect that we don't talk about, and it's the alarming of black women consumers, and then the effect afterwards of this heightened awareness, this heightened the super heightened awareness of the men that are in their lives, and then the harmful behaviors that come after it, where we see nowadays where we have these moments online where we have women calling other men sassy, and sassy is used
zesty
is weaponized. Sassy and zesty are weaponized for men who don't necessarily do things traditionally, or who are in touch with quote unquote feminine ways or feelings. And so when you think about it, Starr, and you think about how the topic and these songs and these movies and these books are kind of directed at you as a black woman, do you think it's harmful? Do you think, especially when it comes to the relationship between black women and black men, in general?
Yeah, it can be harmful because it's presented in an other kind of way. It's presented in a way that men should be ashamed for certain feelings, or for like not conforming to what's seen as machismo. And even for me, like, I'm someone who I feel like I grew up pretty progressive. I mean, I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. It was the hood. I've been a theater kid, theater high school. And so I was around a lot of queerness and queer people. So for me, it wasn't necessarily such a shock, but now that I'm older and I'm having more conversation, I'm realizing there's still stuff I need to unlearn and that I'm working on unlearning. And stereotypically, it's like queerness wasn't necessarily the spectrum that it is today. Back then it was like you were either gay or straight. But now it's, now we're understanding what the different terms are. And so, but I think I'm a unique black woman in that sense, that I was exposed to people and seeing their humanity and understanding their humanity. Now I can say, and I grew up in New York on top of that. There's a lot of stuff that we're taught about queerness that's rooted in religion, that's rooted in white supremacist conditioning that needs to be unlearned, and we need to talk about these things. So I hope, I don't know if I answered the question.
You did,
but
you did, and added I think a layer of nuance that I think is important to consider. So I think what's interesting about Another Man, stories that are rooted in a time and place, and I think today we get to have more nuanced conversations, both in formats like this on podcasts, but also in songs, like what Sir Daniel talked about earlier with like artists like Doechii, and being able to kind of like unlearn some of those things by continuing to have these conversations, acknowledging the fact that Another Man is still a bop, and also being able to be like, okay, but I can also view Another Man from the prism in which it was created. Right. And I think that's one of the things that this space gives us an opportunity to do. I think this new space. But no, you definitely answered the question. I know that going into this, one of the interesting things that I definitely wanted to highlight is that both of these songs were written by men. Sir Daniel, I want to direct this question to you, because what this made me think of is the fact that we saw this in hip hop too, where these vicious disses that women would spit would be written by these dudes, right? So we got these two songs about bisexual men cheating, these women with these men who are cheating on them with other men, written by men. Reflect. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I guess it's like, are they trying to live out their truths vicariously through their muses? It's something to consider. And it's not a stretch of the imagination to think that a songwriter, specifically a male songwriter, would act out or would flesh out themes or stories or experiences that they've had through their music. So it's not that far from of a stretch of an imagination, but I just know. But like you said, thinking back into the context of time, like it makes sense because they didn't have much outlets. There weren't too many people outside of maybe a Sylvester, or I think it stops right there.
Yeah,
and
actually, Jermaine Stewart and yeah.
But even Jermaine Stewart, his biggest hit, he's referring to female pronouns, and it's like Jermaine, okay, But it's so yeah, like so it doesn't surprise me that these male songwriters would do this. Now, speaking of hip hop, and like you mentioned, the rappers and the disses that were written by men. I have to throw in here. There's another song by the rapper by the name of Nikki D, who was, if you remember, Nikki D was the first female MC signed to the Def Jam label back in like 88, 89. And when her debut album finally dropped, Daddy's Little Girl, she also has a song on her album called Another Man. And it samples the Barbara Mason Another Man. And there's no coyness around these lyrics. She is literally saying, she was reminiscing about a man that she used to date. And this one was even more graphic, talking about how she would find his underwear, and his underwear would have, various. The underwear had signs of distress. I'll put it like that. And how she and fun fact, Lady of Rage is on this song. It's really quick. Really? Lady of Rage has a part on the song, and it's really quick. It's like she's just talking to her. She's like, he was ripping it. Yes, and she calls her out about rage. But anyway, so the song that was very. When did that come out? 91. So 91? Listening to that song, I was really taken aback. I was like, oh, whoa, like wow, this is something that is really being discussed. And I think it was the language. The tone of it had a tone of disgust to it. And so, but I'm wondering if the disgust was because of the deception. And the songs are always written about the deception. But I think the greater conversation to have then is, and why aren't we having this greater conversation about why do people feel the need to deceive and to hide?
Right.
And so I think these songs could actually create conversations like we're having now about why people feel the need to hide. Why did people feel the need to deceive and to hide in relationships that they didn't necessarily want to be in, or they really could want to, there's spectrums to sexuality. There's room for that,
yes.
And so there are people who are legit bisexual and would in a moment are in a relationship with the person of the opposite gender. So that's what came to my mind when I heard these songs. And Starr, I just when you hear things like that and you think about the conversations that amongst Black women, is it still steeped in fear, or is there any curiosity about talking to men and saying, hey, it's okay, you can do this? Or do Black women hold the key to making Black men feel comfortable in sexual expressions?
That's a really good question. That's a really deep question too. I think I don't know if it's just Black women that hold the key. I think because so from one of the layers of this that I'm thinking about, right? Like as a Black woman, you think about how society conditions you to get a man, keep a man. If you don't keep that man, you're doing something wrong. So as a woman, you find out your man is cheating, not just cheating, but then he's cheating with another man. You as a woman can't compete with a man. So that's kind of a layer to it that could add to some shame from a woman's perspective too. Like maybe you don't want to talk about it or tell your friends like, yeah, he's cheating with a man. If you tell your friends he's cheating with a woman, they're like, all right, let's go beat that bitch ass or whatever. Like,
where we going to be?
Where's she at?
What do you need to do better? Like, which is crazy, and it's crazy, but a lot of people feel that way, right? Like, oh, if he's cheating, what do I need to do? That's kind of like steeped in that, like that shame. I think it starts with, I think there's value in safe spaces, like for men to have their safe spaces and women to have their safe spaces, and the 80's and the they them to have their safe spaces. But at some point, we have to be able to come together and discuss this. I think, so to answer the question, I don't know if it's Black women that hold the key, but I think if this is one of those group projects that we can come together on and sort of really push this conversation forward. Black women do tend to be the drivers of cultural discussion. So maybe, but I don't know. Ultimately, I feel like this has got to be a group project.
Ooh. So I think one of the things that hindsight gives us the ability to do, and I think I apply this to another man, is recognizing, once again, going back to that thing of like they're a reflection of that time, and we have the opportunity with what we know now to kind of reframe the conversation. So it doesn't mean we have to throw away another man. It's just contextualize them. And I love that Mel, who, you know, was the head of West End Records, was like, hey, many years later, I got him to do like a remix of that song to kind of pull out some of the things that were like, you know, I know we did that in 84, but we really shouldn't have done that. So let's kind of like pull that stuff back. And I think we grow, if we're around long enough, we get the opportunity to grow and evolve. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can change that. We see comedians do it. And I think it also can happen in songs with what we learn. So I think they're necessary, but I also think we give people the chance to change.
Agreed.
Yeah. Why, and I think we may have hit on this, but I think this is kind of a good question or something for us to ponder. Why are songs about diverse romantic experiences important for us to hear? What are y'all feeling?
You can go start that.
Okay. Diversity always gives you a different perspective, and that's what's important because that helps empathy building, which we clearly are in a world that needs a lot more of. So that's my main thing. And sometimes you just get tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes you do want a little bit of spice or something different.
I agree totally. Yeah, it's there's so many stories to be told, right? We're not a monolithic people. You know, we all have different lived experiences. And the thing about music is that music, and especially popular music, taps into all different facets of humanity. So why not tap into different expressions of love? Because most songs are about love, are about relationships.
Yes.
And so are we just going to completely ignore, you know, a whole community, a whole section of the human race that also experiences love, heartbreak, relationships, so on and so forth, joy, pain, all of those things. So we got to have them. If we don't have them, if we didn't have these types of songs, it just wouldn't be as exciting. Music would not be as exciting. I could say as a DJ, it wouldn't be as exciting to play music because everything would be about the same thing. And then again, you are ignoring a whole consumer base and the lives that they're leading. So yeah, it's important to have these, and there's been other songs. There's been, Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl, and to Michelle and Degio Cellos, If That Was Your Man, He Wasn't Last Night. So many different songs. And we all know them, and they're hits, and we enjoy them. So we gotta have it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think so Butch Ingram, when reflecting on the song, Butch wrote the song and produced the song, said that people are having these experiences every day. And at the time when Another Man came out, people just weren't putting it in the song. You know what I mean? And so the beauty about artists being able to reflect lived experience like in music is just like an important part of learning for, I think, a lot of folks. And so, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. We have to have these diverse experiences show up in our music. It just makes it all more, listen, it gives us expands our worldview and makes our lives a little bit more interesting, a little bit more spicy.
That's why the arts is under attack.
You better talk about that, Starr. You are absolutely right. Like, they don't want us to have these experiences because guess what? People start to open up and they start to learn and they start to experience and be like, oh, but it doesn't have to be like this because I heard it in this song, right? Or I got inspired by this song. They don't want that to happen. It's right there. We got lessons in all of this stuff.
Right under our noses.
Right under our noses. Our freedom is we have given ourselves the blueprints to our freedom time and time and time again.
History. Again, this is why history is under attack.
Starr, where can folks connect with you? Let our folks know when they want to connect with Starr Rocque, where can they connect with you?
You can find me at Starr, STARR_ROCQUE. Anywhere. I'm like, let me think about these platforms because I'm trying to be less and less on social media, but definitely like Blue Sky, Threads for sure, Instagram. I'm around.
Yeah. Cool beans. Listen, we appreciate it so much. And for all of y'all tuning in, if you can see our faces, if you can hear our voices, make sure that you subscribe wherever you are. Share the show with your friend. Let them know, because if you enjoy Q Points, chances are they will enjoy Q Points as well. Make sure that you visit our website at qpoints.com. You can watch our whole archive of shows. There are a lot of shows that you can watch over there. And you can also visit our magazine, our digital publication, Q Points Mag, where we got some additional content related to the show. And last but not least, shop our store.qpoints.com. You can get yourself some fresh merch. It helps to keep the lights on here in Q Points land. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us. What do I always say? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I'm DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is Jay Ray. That's Starr Rocque.
Starr Rocque. And this is Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We'll see you on the next go round. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.